An investigation has found the Victorian government breached human rights laws in July's hard lockdown of public housing towers in Melbourne. The state's ombudsman has found the timing of that lockdown impacted 3,000 people and was not based on direct health advice. The state government, however, says it acted to save lives.
Victoria's ombudsman has called the lockdown chaotic, imposed without warning, and a breach of human rights. She's called for an apology from the state government.
Among my recommendations are that the Victorian government apologise to the people detained at the public housing estates for the harm and distress caused by the immediacy of their lockdown.
With Victoria on the verge of a second wave, senior health officials decided the 9 towers needed to be locked down to contain an outbreak linked to public housing residents. It was meant to be enacted 36 hours later, leaving residents time to prepare, but the Premier acted immediately.
It was enforced by large numbers of police who were on site before local residents knew what was happening.
One of those was Abdul.
There was a lot of kind of fear and a lot of trauma and uncertainty as to why there were police. Utter chaos and confusion, to be honest.
3,000 people were locked in for 5 days. Residents of one tower in North Melbourne were held for an additional 9. Abdul had to plead for medicine and supplies for his neighbours. He says they've all been changed by the experience.
They'd survived a lot coming to Australia many years ago and thought that they had escaped the trauma of their homelands. And, they said to me this morning, they were wrong.
We make no apology for saving people's lives.
The Ombudsman received about 150 complaints from one tower alone regarding access to supplies, fresh air and in-language information.
The virus was in many of those towers and in fact it was raging through those towers. And frankly, the government really had no option.
During her investigations, the Ombudsman was denied access to the Cabinet documents from the meeting held just prior to the lockdown. Community Legal Services say to rebuild trust, the government needs to be transparent and explain why public housing tower residents were treated differently than all other Victorians.
It is absolutely fundamental that we know why the Victorian Premier and the Crisis Council of Cabinet decided not to follow public health advice.
The investigation finding the decision was made on security concerns, partly based on stereotypical assumptions about public housing tower residents. Lawyers say further legal proceedings are likely to follow. Abby Dinham, SBS World News.